Revenge with Anjo.
The morning her mother-in-law accused her of murder, Isabel Carter wore her husband's favorite sweater, the soft green cashmere he'd given her last Christmas. It still carried traces of his cologne, that faint cedar scent that used to cling to their bedroom curtains. She sat in the cold insurance office, watching Margaret Carter point a trembling finger at her like a woman confronting evil itself. "She killed my son for the money," Margaret cried. Her deep burgundy nails, the same color she'd worn to Ryan's funeral, trembled as she spoke. Isabel felt the world tilt, as though the floor beneath her chair had disappeared. Across the table, investigator Jerome Wade looked between them. He was a heavy-set man in his 40s, his expression trained to reveal nothing. His pen stopped moving. The silence in the Metropolitan Insurance office thickened until it hurt. Chloe, Ryan's younger sister, leaned forward, her tone sharp and cold. "Check what she put in his food." Isabel cooked every meal. She had full control. Her lips twitched into something cruel. Funny how a healthy 36-year-old just drops dead after dinner. The words sliced through Isabel like glass. She clutched the hem of the sweater, her breath shallow. Around the conference table, 5 pairs of eyes burned into her. Margaret's fury, Chloe's satisfaction, Harold's helpless silence, the investigator's skepticism, even the receptionist's nervous curiosity. "Mrs. Carter," Investigator Wade began, voice firm, "these are serious allegations. The death benefit is significant. £500,000 is motive enough to investigate." Isabel couldn't speak. Her throat closed, her grief and shock blending into one unbearable knot. Only that morning, her 8-year-old daughter Lily had crawled into her bed, whispering, "Mom, I dreamed Daddy came home." The conference door clicked open. Dr. Francis Hollis, the county coroner, entered holding a thin manila folder. His expression was grave, yet oddly expectant. "Apologies for the delay," he said. Traffic from the county office was dreadful. Margaret stood instantly. "Doctor, thank goodness you're here. Tell them what she did. Tell them how she poisoned my boy." Dr. Hollis placed the folder on the table. The fluorescent lights hummed. His gaze lingered on Isabel. "We did find something unusual in Ryan Carter's system," he said slowly. Chloe smirked. Margaret gripped Harold's arm tighter. The toxicology report revealed the presence of ethylene glycol antifreeze. The words dropped like a bomb. Isabel's vision blurred. "That can't be right," she whispered. "I've never even touched the stuff." But before anyone could react, Dr. Hollis raised a hand. "The exposure pattern tells a very different story." He opened the folder, revealing documents and photos. The poisoning was chronic, spanning roughly 6 months. The concentration pattern suggests occupational exposure, not ingestion through food. Everyone froze. The energy in the room shifted. In fact, Dr. Hollis added, Mrs. Isabel Carter had nothing to do with her husband's death. 3 weeks earlier, Isabel's world had collapsed. Ryan had died on a Thursday night just after 10:30. She'd been watching the news when she heard a crash from the bathroom. The doctors called it a sudden heart attack. By the time the ambulance arrived, her husband, strong, healthy, full of life, was gone. Ryan had built Carter Landscaping from nothing, starting with a single mower and a rusted pickup truck. His hands were rough and earthy, but gentle when he tucked the children into bed. He had just landed his biggest contracts that year. Everything was finally turning around. That morning before the meeting, Isabel stood in their quiet kitchen, making breakfast for Lily and her 10-year-old son, Ethan. Ryan's mug still sat on the counter, his boots waiting by the back door. "Mom," Lily asked softly, "why are you wearing Daddy's sweater?" Isabel smiled weakly. "Because it still smells like him." Ethan frowned, pushing his eggs around his plate. "Will we have enough money now that Dad's gone?" Isabel steadied herself. "That's what the insurance is for, love. Dad made sure we'd be okay." But her voice trembled as she said it. The Metropolitan Insurance building loomed like a glass monument to tragedy. Isabel arrived early, needing time to breathe. £500,000. It sounded like a fortune, but it was only security Ryan had planned with such care. Inside, the Carter family was already assembled. Harold sat quietly, his hands folded, while Margaret ruled the center, like a queen at trial. Chloe scrolled through her phone, her indifference sharpened by arrogance. Isabel could feel their judgment before anyone spoke. "I suppose you're here for your payout," Chloe said without looking up. Isabel's jaw tightened. "I'm here because the company requested me." Loretta, now Margaret, studied the green sweater. "Wearing his clothes already. How touching," she muttered. Before Isabel could answer, Investigator Wade entered, his authority filling the room. "Good morning. I'm Jerome Wade, Senior Investigator for Metropolitan Insurance." He set down his folder. "We're here to discuss the death benefit claim for Ryan Carter's policy." He began flipping through pages, methodical, patient, letting silence stretch. Finally, his eyes met Isabel's. "Mrs. Carter, sudden deaths with large policies always require review. There are irregularities." Isabel's stomach twisted. "What kind of irregularities?" And that's when Margaret exploded. "My son didn't just die," she shouted, slamming her hand on the table. "She killed him." Harold tried to calm her, but she shook him off. Isabel's trembling voice barely rose above the tension. "Please, don't you dare call me mother," Margaret cut in, her face flushed red. "You never deserved that title. Ryan called me the night before he died. He said you were acting strange. You pushed him to increase the insurance." "That's not true," Isabel cried. "He wanted to increase it himself after landing the country club contract." Chloe leaned forward, voice dripping with contempt. "Funny. He told me you were obsessed with the money." "My son didn't just die," Margaret shouted, slamming her palm on the table. "She killed him." Her voice cracked under the weight of fury and grief. Harold reached for her hand, but she jerked it away. Isabel sat frozen, words trapped in her throat. "Please, Mrs. Carter," she started, but Margaret cut her off sharply. "Don't you dare call me that. You never deserved him. Ryan told me you'd been acting strange, pushing him to change his insurance, asking questions about payouts." Isabel's heart pounded. "That's not true. Ryan made that decision himself. He said the business was growing and needed protection." Chloe's smirk deepened. "Really? Because my brother told me you were obsessed with that policy. You talked about it every week." "We discussed finances like any couple," Isabel replied, trying to sound steady. "We had 2 children, a mortgage, and a business to run." "And you cooked for him every night," Chloe said coldly. "Made his coffee, packed his lunch, controlled everything he ate. Perfect setup for slow poisoning." Investigator Wade raised his hand. "Enough. These are serious accusations. We'll need to review every detail." Isabel turned pale. "You can't possibly think, Mrs. Carter," Wade said. "We have to be thorough. The amount involved, combined with family concerns, means we must look closer." Isabel's voice broke. "I loved him. You think I could hurt him?" Margaret scoffed. "You loved his success, not him." Harold finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Margaret, stop this." "Stop," she snapped. "Our son is dead, Harold. And she's about to collect £500,000. The investigator's pen scratched across the pad, each word carving deeper into Isabel's fear. Wade looked up. "Mrs. Carter, where were you the night your husband died?" "At home," Isabel whispered. "Cooking dinner. He came in late from work, covered in mud from the Morrison estate. He showered, ate, and went to bed. 3 hours later, I heard him fall." "What did you make?" Wade asked. "Chicken marsala, his favorite. Just the 2 of you ate it?" "Yes." "Convenient," Chloe muttered. "Did Ryan have any health issues?" Wade continued. "Only mild blood pressure problems," Isabel said. "He'd been tired lately, had headaches, but we thought it was just work stress." Margaret's eyes gleamed. Headaches. Fatigue. Classic poisoning symptoms. Isabel stood abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. "Enough." Her voice cut through the tension. "You want to accuse me? Fine. Test everything in my kitchen. Every pan, every plate. But while you're searching for poison, maybe ask yourselves who actually had something to gain." The room fell silent. Even the humming lights seemed to pause. "How dare you turn this around?" Margaret hissed. Isabel met her gaze coldly. "How dare you blame me?" She turned to the investigator. "Did you know Margaret co-signed Ryan's business loans?" "Every one of them." She wanted him to make her a full partner. She threatened to call in the loans if he didn't. Harold's head snapped toward his wife. "Is that true?" "I was protecting our investment," Margaret stammered, but her confidence wavered. "Investment?" Isabel pressed. "You tried to take control of his company. I have messages from Ryan about it." Chloe stood suddenly. "You're twisting things. You're just trying to save yourself." Isabel turned on her. "What about you, Chloe? Did you tell the investigator you asked Ryan for £25,000 2 weeks before he died?" Chloe's face went pale. "That was a loan. Family helps family." "He said no," Isabel said, her voice steady now. "He was tired of being treated like a bank." She looked straight at the investigator. "You want motive? Start there. Ryan told me he felt like a wallet with a heartbeat." Wade's expression changed, interest replacing doubt. He jotted something down. "Miss Chloe Carter," he said. "Is that true?" "It wasn't like that," Chloe muttered. "He promised to help when things settled." Harold rubbed his temples. "You asked him for money again?" The silence that followed was heavier than accusation. "Ryan planned to restructure the business," Isabel continued, her voice trembling but firm. "He wanted to remove Margaret as co-signer. He'd found an investor who would buy her out. The deal was supposed to finalize this week." Margaret's face drained of color. "That's a lie." "No," Isabel said quietly. "He wanted peace. He was tired of manipulation." The investigator looked around the table. "This changes things. There are multiple financial motives here, not just one." Isabel exhaled shakily. "You think I'd kill the father of my children? He worked himself to exhaustion for this family. For you." Wade tapped his pen. "Let's pause here. The coroner's report should arrive any moment." But before he could finish, the door opened. Dr. Hollis entered, holding the manila folder like it contained a verdict. His expression was calm, but heavy with knowledge. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "But I have information that changes everything." Everyone leaned forward, their earlier confidence fading into nervous anticipation. Hollis set the folder down with deliberate care, then opened it slowly. Typed reports, chemical charts, and photographs filled the table like evidence of a war no one realized they were fighting. "The toxicology report confirms the presence of ethylene glycol in Ryan Carter's system," Hollis said, his tone professional but grim. "That's antifreeze, sweet-tasting, deadly in small doses. It mimics flu symptoms before shutting down the kidneys." Margaret gasped. "See, I told you." "Please," Hollis raised a hand. "Let me finish." The exposure was chronic, not acute. It occurred over 6 months in small, repeated doses. This wasn't food-related. It's occupational. "Occupational?" Isabel repeated, confused. "From his landscaping work?" "That's what we thought at first," Hollis said. "But then we investigated the Morrison estate where he'd been working." He pulled out a document. The Morrisons reported repeated vandalism, equipment damaged, hoses cut, chemical spills. They installed security cameras last month. Hollis laid down a grainy photograph. A shadowy figure stood near a shed, pouring something into a cooler. The footage captured someone tampering with the crew's water supply. He held up another image, clearer this time. Chloe's face appeared, frozen mid-motion. "Miss Chloe Carter, is this you?" The room exploded. Margaret screamed, Harold's chair toppled over, and Wade grabbed his phone. Chloe's mouth opened soundlessly. That's not me," she cried, but her voice faltered. "Tell them it's not you," Margaret begged, her voice cracking. Chloe began to sob uncontrollably. "It wasn't supposed to kill him," she wailed. "I just wanted him to stop working, to step back. He promised me partnership before she pointed at Isabel, shaking, before she got pregnant again. He replaced me with them." Isabel's voice was a whisper. "You killed him because of jealousy?" "I didn't mean to," Chloe screamed. "He was supposed to get sick, not die." Her sobs filled the room. The truth was monstrous, raw and irreversible. You researched it, Hollis said quietly. You dosed the water for months. The Morrison security footage shows you visiting 15 times when no crew was present. We confirmed antifreeze purchases on your credit card. Chloe covered her face, weeping. Wade finished his call. The police are on their way. Margaret collapsed into Harold's arms. My baby murdered my baby, she cried. Isabel could barely breathe. Her knees trembled. You knew about the insurance, didn't you? She whispered. You thought if Ryan died, you'd inherit everything. Chloe shook her head frantically. It wasn't like that. I just wanted to prove myself. Harold's voice broke as he stared at her. You poisoned your own brother. Chloe sobbed harder. He was supposed to get dizzy, maybe faint, go to the hospital. Then I'd help with the business. He'd finally see I wasn't a failure. Hollis's expression hardened. You miscalculated. The heat accelerated the toxin. The buildup caused kidney failure and heart collapse. Margaret wailed again, clutching Harold. She didn't mean it, she whispered, as if denial could undo the horror. Isabel said nothing. Her silence was heavier than words. 2 uniformed officers entered moments later. They moved with quiet authority, their handcuffs already out. Chloe Carter, one said, You're under arrest for the murder of Ryan Carter. The words shattered whatever illusion of control remained. Chloe screamed, her voice hoarse. It's not fair. She took everything from me. The officers read her rights as she sobbed, mascara streaking her cheeks. Margaret's body shook violently, collapsing against Harold's chest. Isabel watched in stunned stillness. Her heart ached not with victory, but disbelief. The police led Chloe away, her cries echoing down the corridor. The room emptied slowly after that. Margaret's sobs turned into low moans, and Harold guided her out like a man aged decades in minutes. Before leaving, he paused by Isabel's chair. His voice was soft, almost breaking. I'm sorry, Isabel. We wronged you. Ryan loved you deeply. We should have remembered that before letting grief make us cruel. Isabel nodded, tears blurring her vision. He loved you too, she whispered. Even after everything, he always did. Harold's eyes filled with tears. He got that kindness from his mother once upon a time. When everyone had gone, Investigator Wade approached her quietly. Mrs. Carter, he said, his tone gentler now, we'll process the payment immediately. You've been through more than anyone should. I'm sorry for what happened here. Isabel looked up at him, exhausted. Will she go to prison? Yes, Wade said softly. She confessed to premeditation and repeated dosing. It's murder. She'll likely spend the rest of her life behind bars. The words sounded final, but Isabel couldn't feel relief. Only emptiness. 3 hours later, Isabel sat alone in her car in the parking lot. The late sun cast orange streaks across the windshield, the kind of sky Ryan used to stop and admire after long days. He'd always say, beautiful things still happen, Izzy, even on bad days. She could almost hear his voice. She pressed her palm to the green sweater, now a fragile link to him. Then she picked up her phone and dialed the school. Hi, it's Isabel Carter. I need to pick up Lily and Ethan early. The secretary hesitated. Is everything okay? We just need to be together, she said softly. 20 minutes later, she pulled up outside the school gates. Lily ran to her, hair flying, while Ethan followed more slowly, his serious eyes searching her face. Mom, were you crying? He asked. Yes, love. Sometimes mums cry too. Is it about Dad? Lily asked, clutching her hand. Isabel nodded. Yes, darling. But today I also learned something important, just how much your dad loved us. They drove home in silence, the hum of the car blending with the weight of everything unspoken. That evening, Isabel gathered them in the living room, the same room where Ryan had once built blanket forts and read bedtime stories. I need to tell you something about Aunt Chloe, she began carefully. She made some terrible choices. She's going to be gone for a long time. Lily frowned. Did she do something bad? Yes, sweetheart. She hurt Daddy because she was angry and jealous. She wanted things that weren't hers. Ethan stared at the carpet, his voice quiet. Is that why Dad got sick? Isabel swallowed hard. Yes. She didn't mean for him to die, but what she did was very wrong. Lily's small voice trembled. But Daddy was nice to her. He was, Isabel whispered. Sometimes, people forget that love is more important than money or success. Aunt Chloe lost sight of that. Ethan nodded slowly, processing with the blunt honesty of a 10-year-old. So, love keeps people alive? Isabel smiled faintly. In a way, yes. Even when someone dies, their love stays with us. Lily leaned against her, whispering, I miss him. Isabel held both children close. I do too, sweetheart. Every day. They spent that night looking through photo albums, Ryan teaching Ethan to ride his bike, carrying Lily on his shoulders at the fair, laughing in their kitchen over burnt toast. The memories hurt, but they healed too. He looks so happy, Lily said softly. He was, Isabel replied. He loved us more than anything. Ethan traced a photo with his finger. I'll take care of you, Mom. Like Dad did. Tears filled Isabel's eyes. You already do, love. You both do. Days passed before Isabel truly breathed again. The insurance payment came through, but the check felt heavy. Blood money from a betrayal she still couldn't comprehend. She deposited it quietly, promising herself to use it only for what Ryan had planned, the children's future. One evening, as the house fell silent, she sat alone on the sofa, wearing his green sweater. Its warmth had faded, but the scent of him lingered faintly. She whispered into the quiet. We're okay now, Ryan. You kept your promise. Margaret sent flowers weeks later, white lilies with a note written in shaky handwriting. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I see now what Ryan saw in you. Thank you for loving him right. Isabel read the note 3 times before setting it beside Ryan's framed photo. Forgiveness wouldn't come easily, but maybe someday. Ethan started drawing again. Pictures of trees, gardens, and a man wearing a green jumper. It's Dad, he explained proudly. He's planting flowers in heaven. Lily giggled softly beside him. The sound reminded Isabel of spring, fragile, but hopeful. He'd like that, she said, smiling through tears. For the first time in weeks, the house felt alive again. Life settled into a new rhythm, quieter, but filled with meaning. Isabel spent mornings tending Ryan's garden, pruning roses he'd planted years ago. In the evenings, she read bedtime stories he used to tell. Each act felt like stitching back pieces of a torn world. Some nights she still woke crying, the memory of that conference room haunting her, but she always found strength in the small hands that reached for her in the dark. At the trial, Isabel sat in the back row. Chloe avoided her eyes. She looked smaller somehow, her arrogance stripped away. When the verdict came, guilty of first-degree murder, Isabel didn't cheer or cry. She just closed her eyes and whispered, I forgive you, but I'll never understand. Outside, reporters shouted questions, but she walked past them, clutching Ryan's old sweater like a shield against the noise. Months later, on a golden spring morning, Isabel took the children to the seaside. Ryan had loved the ocean, said it made life feel simple again. They scattered wildflowers into the waves. Ethan saluted solemnly while Lily whispered, Good night, Daddy. The wind carried their words away. Isabel smiled through tears. He's listening, she said softly. That night, back home, Isabel tucked the children into bed and sat by the window. The moonlight touched Ryan's photograph. You were right, she whispered. Beautiful things do still happen. The ache in her chest eased slightly. She realized that grief wasn't something to escape. It was proof of love that still lingered, unpoisoned and pure. Weeks turned into months. Isabel began teaching part-time again, something Ryan had always encouraged. Her students adored her calm voice and patient smile. One afternoon, as she dismissed class, a boy handed her a daisy and said, My mom says people who make others feel safe are angels. Isabel blinked away tears. Tell your mom she's right. At home that evening, she found Ethan and Lily drawing at the table. Ethan held up a picture of all three of them beneath a big tree. "It's us," he said proudly. "And that's Dad in the sky." Isabel smiled. "It's perfect." She hung it on the fridge beside Ryan's old photo. One more piece of proof that love outlasts loss. Isabel still wore the green sweater often. Not just because it was soft, but because it reminded her of everything that survived: love, truth, and resilience. She'd learned that the real poison wasn't in what people ate or drank, but in jealousy and resentment. Ryan's life had been stolen, but his love remained, in the laughter of their children, in the scent of spring soil, in every sunrise she learned to face alone. Some dangers, she realized, come not from strangers, but from the ones who sit closest at your table, smiling, while they pour the poison. If you value stories of respect, dignity, and justice, please subscribe. It means more than you know, and it lets me keep sharing the lessons life has carved into me.